Do you do your taxes on time every year?
I do them immediately because I want my refund.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, I try to do them on December 31st if I could, but I do it right at the end of January. I get them done.
All right, I don't know. The IRS.
How about you? Do you procrastinate?
I do. I procrastinate. Yeah, I file and
You're like my parents.
Yeah, put it off. So I stay. Yeah, so I take a little extra time.
And I was like April 17th. I'm like, no, Mom, just get it done.
Well, anyway, sometimes the IRS makes people nervous.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that you should know if your taxes are being audited.
That's right. Talk to a tax attorney, and joining us now from J.L. Williamson Law Group in Statesboro, Jeffrey Williamson. Hello, Jeffrey.
Good to be with you.
So, what do they need to know? What's the first sign you're going to be audited?
Don't be nervous.
Well, there's no way to know. You know, some people play the audit lottery. You know, saying I'll just fill out anything and hope they won't look at my return. The IRS scores returns with what they call a DIF score, discriminant income function score. They don't release those scores, so you have no way of knowing if you're going to be audited or not.
So it's not a random.
Some
are.
A very few are chosen actually at random, but most are audited, you know, if there's something really out of line. You know, a small business who makes, let's say, gross receipts of $200,000, but they've got $150,000 of miscellaneous deductions. That's questionable.
Miscellaneous. Now, if they have specific deductions.
Well, if they have unclassified deductions. There's a line for miscellaneous deductions.
Yeah.
So I've had that before.
So that red flag goes up.
Well, I had a client once that they just put all their deductions in miscellaneous. They were legitimate deductions, but they pulled it. So we had to go through and break it out. You know, this was depreciation. This was car and truck expense. You know, this was postage, you know.
How will the IRS let you know? Because we have a lot of scams out there. People get phone calls, people get emails. How does the IRS contact people when it's a legitimate audit?
That's a good question. Usually letter. You know, when you use the term audit, that has a specific context for a tax controversy attorney. You'll actually get a letter in the mail saying, you know, your taxes are being audited, and they'll send you what is called an IDR, information document request. So generally they're auditing specific line items on your return.
Oh, okay.
So send us your depreciation schedule, send us support for your charitable donations. Sometimes, though, they'll do what we call correspondence audits, and those aren't real audits for technical purposes, but they'll just say, hey, we've noticed a 1099 was reported and it's, you know, you didn't pick it up on your return. If you get a letter, though, from the IRS, what I would do, I mean, the important thing, what I see with, you know, don't ignore it.
Right.
They're not going to forget.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll put this over here and see.
Right. Yeah, just because you
remember.
haven't heard from them in a while doesn't mean they're not going to get around to it.
And they could catch it, and you might not hear about it for a couple of years. So by that point,
That's right.
they catch you on the interest and everything else, too.
Exactly. Interest and penalties and things like that, sure.
And also, they won't email you.
No, you won't get an email or generally a phone call. No.
If you do that, those are the scams
That's
that
the
Don
scam.
has
I mean,
covered many of
people
those
fall
scams.
for that. This is the IRS.
So it's going to be an official letter that comes in the mail. And when you get that letter, why should I use a tax attorney as opposed to just going back to my CPA?
Well, honestly, sometimes you can go to your CPA if it's a fairly simple issue. But what I find is, you know, accountants are in the business, and I say this because I have an accounting degree, so you know, they're in the business of actually just preparing a return. If you're really being audited, you need someone who has skills in advocacy, like an attorney who specializes in controversy. And also, if you think the investigation is not going the audit's not going your way, you know, you may have to appeal it.
Right.
You know, it's better to have someone who's familiar with IRS appeals. Furthermore, with an attorney, you get an expanded privilege. You know, with you and I, it's attorney-client privilege.
Right.
There is an accountant-client privilege under the code for CPAs. It's under 7525, but it's much more limited than what you have with your attorney.
All right, so it behooves you to, if you should get into one of these situations where it's more than just a little tax line saying, show us your receipts for this, to talk to somebody who's been through it.
I think so. I mean,
knows the legal ins and outs.
I thought you were going to, you know, how do you find a good tax attorney? Well, that's really hard. I wish I had a good answer for you.
Yeah.
You know, but I would say to try to use someone as local as possible. You know, take your house and draw, you know, 150 or 200 mile radius and try to pick someone. You see these commercials on TV, settle for pennies on the dollar, and you call it somebody out in Colorado.
Yeah.
I always try to meet my client at least once in person.
Yeah.
That's a very good point to deal with someone who is in the area. And
Right.
you'll have better contact with them, and you can actually go into the office and sit down with them if you want to.
Exactly. That's important.
Well, your office is in Statesboro, J.L. Williamson
Law Group.
Law Group, and you specialize in?
Tax controversy. But I'm actually going to be setting up a Savannah office fairly soon.
Okay.
So I'll be coming to Savannah one day a week.
All right. So
But you
we'll-
can log on www.jlwlawgroup.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
We
for having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Training for a culinary career. We're going to tell you about that coming up next.